Hey guys, this is eCurrency Hodler from the Bitcoin product community, and we are really excited to have Manuel and Mo join us today. And they are going to be talking about the research that they did, amazing research that they did for Bitcoin Dev Kit. And I thought this was really interesting. Number one, because we actually helped Manuel get connected with BDK last year, and it's a year after the fact, and it's really cool to see that uh, he didn't disappear, he didn't ghost the project, but he actually followed through with his commitment, and that's awesome to see. So we want to celebrate that. Um, but also, he did user research for a FOSS project. So I've heard of user research for like commercial projects and companies, but never for a FOSS project. So this is like really cool to see. And so, yeah, and Mo definitely helped put all this together. And so, yeah, I'm excited to see what they have to present. Yeah, Manuel, do you want to kind of kick it off?
Yeah, sure. Do you want to do a round of introduction or I just go straight ahead?
Um, well, yeah, why don't we just go straight into the
Okay.
presentations and then, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm Manuel. I contributed in BDK thanks to to the Bitcoin product community that put me in touch with Steve Myers, that is leading a little bit the BDK project, and I started in April 2023. I was not sure that a product person could be useful in the highly technical Bitcoin environment, especially in a product like BDK that is very backend oriented. For those who don't know, BDK is a library, an API that other apps can use to, for example, easily sync their wallet or create transaction, create seeds, create addresses, all this kind of stuff. So you can bootstrap your wallet or your whatever exchange or whatever it is very easily, and you don't have to build the wallet or thing from scratch, but you rely on some standard implementation that is well tested and well designed. And VDK was going through a very huge redesign with the 1.0 version. We were on 0.x, let's say, and they were doing a very huge redesign. And there was this feature freeze that was lasting a bit longer than expected. And when I started introducing myself and going through the first meetings, I was a little bit confused about all the activities because it's very technical and I'm not a developer. So I was trying to understand if I could make a contribution out of it. But the people were very nice, very welcoming, and so it was very easy to get comfortable with it. And I started like having more like a project management role, a triage role, like taking the tasks that were being created and maybe assigning them to the specific milestones or specific projects or assigning them this kind of stuff, and then leading the bi-weekly meeting that we were having and trying to give some tips as a manager slash product manager on how to let's say organize the board and this kind of stuff. So it was more like operational activity. But then slowly I started realizing that when we were talking, there was like we had in mind what we wanted to achieve with the 1.0 version of BDK, but at the moment we actually didn't understand what was strictly required and what was nice to have, for example, on or what should be the priority for the users. And I basically, like, from my experience, what missed was like the communication between the user, like the data gathering from users. Like we didn't understand, like we didn't talk enough with users and understand what they were using BDK for and what were the priorities according to the usage and to the problems that they were facing. So what I proposed was to talk with users, to get in touch with as many users as possible, and try to do some sort of user research in order to understand what were the priorities that we should have and what were the issues that we were having, but also basically knowing what they were using BDK for, because it was not really clear. Like, okay, some users were in touch, were in the Discord chat, but some others were just using it, and we didn't know how they were using it behind the scenes, because of course it's some library. We cannot, like, if it's open source, we can go and see the code, but it's not always easy, and it's time consuming. And the Bitcoin Foundation, like the BDK Foundation, liked the idea, and they gave me the possibility to have a grant for this activity, and it was a project grant, so it was related to this project. And so I was very excited because I got in touch with many users. Maybe I will share a slide here on what is the main process that I followed, and Mo was a very big help in this. So then I will also let her explain. Okay. Do you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically what I was explaining was the planning phase. So I ideate these research objectives, so to understand what were the priorities and how to achieve them. And then I shared with the BDK development team my idea, and they were excited about it and they were supportive, so I went on with it. And then I created the interview script, so thinking about the... sorry.
I have a question. I'm wondering, like, it's not always common that stakeholders of any kind, whether it's in the world of FOSS or it's in a corporate context, land with, understand, and intuitively grok what the purpose of user research is, and or the outcomes of it, and or the impact of it. How much work at all did you have to do to educate people on what this is and what the value of it is, or was it or did they intuitively grok and understand what you were trying to do?
Such a good question.
It's actually weird, because usually I face the same issue. Like, it's difficult to let people understand the the importance of user research. But actually, Steve, that was the main person I was talking to, immediately understood the need for it. And I did this proposal, and it stayed a little bit quiet for some time, so it needed to ferment a little bit. And then he came back to me and he told me, "Oh, I thought back to your proposal, and I think it's very useful." Maybe also because it was clear that we were having some prioritization issues, because we were postponing 1.0 version release because we were keep adding new stuff, because of course on the developer point of view, everything is very important, everything is necessary and urgent. And so maybe since he was like a sort of project manager himself, so he was saying, "Oh, I'm not understanding, like I'm not managing to push it through, so we need some sort of validation from the users in order to..." So maybe that helped, the fact that he was in my same clothes, let's say, in some way. So yeah, it was very easy, because actually they were very welcoming on this activity. I don't know if I answered your question.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And then for the interview script creation, so the step 2, I actually had some objectives in mind, but I needed some help because I was like more a project manager in my job, let's say. So I needed some more understanding of how to do it properly, and Mo helped me very much with it. She introduced me a jobs to be done framework that she will explain in a bit, and I followed through her advices and made an interview script that was feasible, like it was suitable to my needs and to our needs. And then I, of course, connected with users. I tried to contact them through various channels, trying to not be the shadowy spammer that texts you in any possible chats. But yeah, of course, some of my messages probably got to spam. But yeah, more than half the users that I contacted actually were super kind and super available to participate in the interview. The others probably didn't see the message, and yeah. Yeah, too bad. Anyway, it was more than enough sample. It was like 12 people to interview, so it was a pretty good sample in terms of user research, I think. And yeah, 12 of the 23 that I contacted. And then, of course, I executed the conversations. I used also some transcription AI tool when the interviewed was was agreeing on being recorded, let's say, given that I was taking it as a confidential thing, even if it was not like personal data. But anyway, and yet then I did some rework of this transcript and of the notes that I took during the interviews, and then I prepared this report, which structure was again suggested by Mo, that used this kind of report in other projects, and she will touch on this very soon. And yeah, that was basically the process. I then, of course, presented the report to the team, and I think it was helpful. Maybe at the end of the talk, we can also go through it, not to see specifically what were the results, but maybe to see first the structure with Mo, and then maybe also what we achieved thanks to that, and what kind of decision making this helped to do. And yeah, that's basically what I wanted to say as an introduction. I don't know, probably it's worth letting Mo speaking about the things that I told you, so the interview script and the report structure. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, let's do that.
Sure. Happy to jump in. So firstly, this is super special because Art, who's on the phone call, built the UX research toolkit with me and a whole bunch of people. I don't remember when it was. I think it must have been about a year ago or 2 years ago. Time is just flying insane.
That's when we met, about 2 years ago.
We've known each other for 2 years now, Art and myself. So it's super special. So we built this toolkit out in public collaboratively. I think there must have been about 4 of us consistently on the project, or 5 of us. And this toolkit, which was used then by Manuel in the BDK research, we used one specific methodology from the toolkit. And yeah, I just like to thank Art and all the other people who built it with me. It was Jakob, and it was Jan, and Christoph as well. We built it, and we built in public. We had so much fun. So the UX research toolkit, which we built, is this one, and we've made some iterations to it. Let me just go back here. I've made some fun iterations to it over time, also inspired by Christoph, because he's just been having so much fun with AI art. So basically the toolkit is to help. The target audience of the toolkit are builders, Bitcoin builders, who have 0 to no experience with Bitcoin. They're asking themselves a question, and that question is the thing that their team is trying to figure out. So basically, they could be asking themselves, we're about to launch, what do we do? Are we building the right thing? How do we set up a long-term research process? How do we get buy-in from the rest of the team? How do we come up with solutions, and so on? But then something that we added in recently is, if you're a more experienced researcher, or you understand the methodology you want to use, you can jump here into resources. But I'll just jump quickly to the About page. I think we wrote this together. This toolkit is for builders, founders, devs, designers, and all Bitcoiners. The goal is hyper-Bitcoinization through better products. And here we've got Art, myself, Christoph, Jakob, Jan, and Jakey Ads, and those were the contributors. So in this toolkit, we used the jobs to be done framework, which is, it's super nice because I don't know how Manuel contacted me. I think it was just like a message through Discord. And then we just started chatting and we just started collaborating while he was working on this, and just in a very sort of relaxed way, giving him advice and guidance and facilitating as much as I could that the research was done to achieve their end goal. So the Jobs to be Done framework, this is a very funny quote. If I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. So I guess the moral of this is, if we ask the users of our applications what they want directly, they cannot really tell us what they want, because psychologically that just doesn't work in terms of, people really knowing what they want. So the Jobs to be Done framework is around the methodology, the thought of every software or application we build has a specific job. People will hire our product to do a certain job. And if that product that does that certain job proficiently, then they will continue using the product. So there's two methods. There's interviews and then there's stories. And basically what Manuel did is he ran these interviews. And in the interviews, he was trying to understand events, so the context, what was delighting people about using BDK and what was frustrating people. And then we have the super handy interview transcript, which I will share here. It's basically a Google document. I don't know if this is visible. Yeah, it is. So it's basically a Google document which you can just copy, and then I think Manuel just basically made a iterated version of this, and he then used this. But maybe he can share later more about that. So yeah, basically that's the Jobs to be Done framework. And then I think I'll hand it back to Manuel about the report, and then maybe I can also talk about the report template later. So we have a bit of back and forth. So I'm handing it over to you, Manuel.
Sure. I can also share my transcript so that you can see a little bit difference. Even if we are not going to read it all, of course. But yeah, I started from that template. I think you see my screen. Yes, and I basically adapted it to my goals, to my objectives, and also try to understand what could be the possible scenarios. So if some of them would answer in a certain way, probably it was worth digging into some topic. If there was another possible direction of the conversation, probably other topics were more interested. And also, of course, going with the flow. If a person was like passionate about something during the interview, I was not like interrupting them to follow the script. Of course, something was passionate, I was like going in that direction. So as the like user research manual would say. And about the report that I was sharing before, actually, I'm just going to show a little bit the structure. So I first summarized the problem that I was going to research about. So in this case, understand which were the main pain points and the activities done with BDK. And these research goals, so summarizing them in bullet points, then having a like summary of the process, the one that I presented just before, and then introducing which were the users that I spoke to, and the first thing of the Jobs to be Done framework that maybe then Mo will say more about this, but is the push. So visually telling the team what were the things that pushed the users to use BDK. So what is the good thing about BDK that people use to solve their problem? And so this visual thing of having sized circles for to represent which were the main drivers to use BDK was particularly effective. Then I went and explained these pushes with one thing that I found very useful was reporting some quotation, some things that they said to me, they told me in the same way they told me, so that also the developers and the other people in the team could understand which were their motivation and their expression, even if, of course, they were not there with me. And then I basically summarized what were the main use of BDK. Actually, I found out that BDK was used for almost everything. So it was not like there was not a specific trait or specific part of the software that was predominant on the others. So this was useful to know anyway. We need to maintain everything, and basically we were trying to discard something or to give less priority to something, but actually it was not possible. And then summarizing a little bit the findings, and then going to the fears. So what were the main things that that users were struggling with in using BDK? So that's very, very important. I basically found out the two main fears, one at the onboarding stage with some quotation, and one on the 1.0 limbo. I called it like this, the thing that we were running very late in releasing the 1.0. So some users were feeling like a little bit insecure and stuck in a limbo because they couldn't get the new features because the 1.0 was not stable, but at the same time they needed some new features, some maintenance from the 0.x that they were using. And since I wanted also to give some more context, I used this table in order to summarize which were the different issues and requests that the different user had. So I listed them and tried to categorize by criticality, let's say, that can be things that cause issues, so are more pressing, and things that just create new opportunities, so are nice to have. And then I did some summary, but then I wanted to go deep a little bit on the 1.0 limbo issue because it was the main pain that we were feeling. And so I gave some more data. So here I said, oh, you see, people are already upgrading to 1.0, even if we are still in a alpha version. So 50% of our users are already going to the 1.0, even if it's risky, because of course alpha versions are not stable, are not tested, and this kind of stuff. So this is like some sort of proof that 1.0 is very useful, and we need to ship sooner than later because people want this kind of improvement on the library. And of the 50% that were still in the 0.x, 4 out of 5, or I don't remember if it was 5 out of 6 or 4 out of 5, I remember, were telling me that they were waiting for 1.0 to solve one relevant issue. So this was another push to try to make things quicker. And actually, one thing also that I understood was that we were trying to put as many things as possible in the 1.0 version because we were afraid that people doing breaking changes, API breaking changes features in different versions was a pain for the users because they needed to update the API every time. But actually, what I found out talking with users, so this was what we thought before talking with users, but actually talking with users, what we understood was that actually for them changing the API, yes, of course, it was a little bit a pain, but it was not that much of a burden. Actually, the major burden was not having the new features that the new redesign, re-architecturing that the 1.0 was having. So it was worth cutting some of the activities, even if were considered very important in order to ship the 1.0 version, because it was perceived very, very important by the users. So this is one of the practical insights that I think I helped bring out with this user research interview, or other than the specific requests or pains that I summarized in the table. And yeah, I try to give some more context to what I did, and some next steps that maybe we can do with this, what we can do with this with the research, and then of course some discussion point that we shared, and then we discussed about them during the presentation with the team. And I think we gave some sort of actionable items, and it was the main objective. So not staying in the abstract, but giving some value, some actionable value to the team. I think it was. Of course, some things we already knew, but it was useful. So yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with the result of this report. But maybe I don't know. I already showed most of the structure. If you want more details, we'll probably talk about it anyway. Yeah, if you have any questions about it, of course I'm here.
It's kind of interesting because you talked about like the fears of the users, but it's interesting you're also managing the fears of the project too. So you got to balance both and that's a core problem that I think a lot of product contributors and managers have to deal with. That's yeah, you got to manage the table and the stakeholders at the table.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Manuel.
Yeah. This was a very important factor because like many discussions were happening in the Discord channel about we need to include this feature, and yeah, having the user perspective gave some more like I don't know, power to the idea to the decision of limiting the scope of the release, because without the user saying that, or without the data from the user, it was very difficult to say this is not strictly required, So this was very, very like a sensitive thing to do. So yeah. You're right.
And I do have a question. So you did the research and you created this awesome presentation. Like, what were the steps that you did to share the research, to communicate it to the team? And what was the process like for them to make the decision to release 1.0?
Okay, so my thought was I want to involve people in this process. I actually invited them to, if they wanted to attend some of the interviews, they were free to do it. In the end, they didn't, but probably they were very busy in developing, or maybe not interested. I don't know, but. I created a channel in Discord, a private channel with the team, and I tried to keep them updated on, okay, tomorrow we'll talk with this guy about, on this product, and if you have a further question, please tell me so that I can... I try to engage with them in order to keep them in the loop and keep them informed of what I was doing, and the fact that maybe I found out something about BDK that I didn't know, or maybe that I didn't expect. I commenting on the chat so that they could be aware, and maybe having ideas based on that. And then when I finished my like round of interviews and my analysis of the interviews, transcript, notes, summary, and this kind of stuff, I was saying, okay, I would like to present to you these results because I think they are relevant. What do you think? And they were happy to hear about it, and we agreed upon a date. And after that, actually, I already shared some of the impressions. So basically, it's not like black and white. We were already going through the process of cutting a little bit the scope of the release. It was some time was still needed to cut it, but I think that the presentation was not a big surprise because I already shared a lot of the results, but it generated some more discussion, and we went through that path that we already started going through. So yeah.
I think that's really interesting, and your approach to it was fantastic. I think number one, because it fits the values of the project of it being open inclusive. You want to get feedback from everybody. You weren't trying to do the user interviews by yourself. You're keeping everybody in the loop, and that's actually a great way to build like influence in a team. And it's very subtle, but like every time you're posting updates, you're asking for, hey, I'm also going to interview this person. Do you have any feedback? Right? And so now they are part of the process of the user interviews. They're invested in it little by little. And so by the point in which you make the presentation and the pitch of like, hey, this is what we need to get to the 1.0 cut, yeah, they're already on track. You've already built the relationship and the influence with them to make that decision. So I think that's a beautiful example of how, like, sometimes I think people think, oh, like this person's just a great presenter, or they just, the research was so compelling and you just got to read it. But more often than not, helping people make decisions is a long-term process. It's yeah, bringing them along the journey like you did. So that's really cool to see, Manuel.
As something I'd like to pick up on, and I'd love to hear Art's about this as well, Art's impression and ideas about this as well, is, having done research in various projects in Bitcoin over the last few years, when I entered into the ecosystem, I saw research reports that were 60 to 80 to 100 pages long, sitting on the shelf collecting dust. And what I've learned, I'll share very honestly, over the last few years, is that a Bitcoin product team building a product needs someone in the team who is consistently championing the voice of the user. And they are championing this by having the research data always in the back of their head, and they're consistently raising their hand and asking the right questions. So, there's two ways of doing research. There's one way of like doing research, presenting to the team, and then exiting, or having research done and then having someone who's championing the voice of the user in the project consistently, and just consistently raising their hand, and being very resilient. So I'll share the report quickly, but I'd like to, after I share the report, I'd love to hear from Art as well in terms of sharing research. This template that Manuel used, I actually didn't expect it. It just happened very haphazardly that I was like, Manuel, I have a template here, like use it. I've been working on Bitcoin Core app as a researcher, for the last, I think, 3 or 4 years. And then we did research to understand user needs, jobs to be done for Bitcoin Core app. And then I was like, I can design something in Figma, or I can design something in Canva. Now, Canva, I don't know if any of you know about it, has a whole bunch of like very flexible templates. You don't need to be a designer to use it. So I just created this template in Canva, or edited an already existing template. And that's basically this template over here, which is, and here you'll see a lot of similarities. So basically this is the Bitcoin Core app one. So basically this is what I then presented to the, let me just see if I can maximize it.
Yeah, it looks very similar. Yeah.
So this is the template here, and it's very easy because you can pretty much just click on it and move through and just make all of your edits. First understanding what we think or assume the problem is, because it is only an assumption at that stage, and then moving into the goals of the research. But the whole template is 21 pages long, and half of that are basically images and visuals to really keep things really to the point. And then here you have the process. Thanks for AI. AI is now built into Canva, so you can pretty much just type in the image you want to generate, and it'll generate the images for you. It managed to, generate some Bitcoin images. And here you can just enter in the data, and it will basically just, edit it for you. Or, oh no, these are drag and drop. So yeah, this is basically the template, and it coincidentally, it's also the jobs to be done framework, which we also use for Bitcoin Core app, trying to understand who was using Bitcoin Core app. And it turns out it's mostly node runners, at least the people that we interviewed. And, one of the things that Manuel shared is that it's very important to bring the voice of the users directly to the team, because something that we have to think about when we're doing research for Bitcoin is that privacy is a big thing. So we're not really in the position of making a video recording of the person speaking and sharing it with the team. So the best way that we can then do this is to share snippets of exactly what they said. And then once again, talking about fear. And that was also fun. One of the people we interviewed said it was like flying a plane for the first time. So really trying to drum home certain things. And yeah, that's basically the template, but I won't go into too much of detail. It feels now as if this template, we can just share an editable or copyable version, and add it to the UX research toolkit with the jobs to be done framework, because it's just super easy to edit and it just works. So yeah.
This looks beautiful, Mo. It's obvious that there's a lot of time spent creating these templates. So yeah, great job.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Art, do you want to kind of comment on what Mo was asking in terms of, yeah, what you've seen in your experience working with Bitcoin projects and user research?
Feels like there was probably 4 questions in one, and that's okay. So what's unique about Bitcoin projects is that teams tend to be quite small compared to working in a firm or a corporation, or where there's an abstraction layer as a consultancy working for a large corporation, right? Because let's say the largest abstraction layer is you're consulting, doing like strategic research or product research or fractional product stuff for a team that hires you, that then is responsible to another team that then is building with another team, and then somehow you are looking to solve an ambiguous problem, and part of the goal is figuring out who you're solving that problem for. So when working in free and open source projects, there tends to be a lot less abstraction. In other words, who your executive sponsor is, the people whose curiosities you need to address, and that speaks, Mo, to that insight you shared, where you do become the voice of customer, or rather, you become a translation of the voice of customer. You act as a sort of a time-saving tool for your sponsors. In other words, I want to almost like go meta here and ask, what is the job of a researcher, of a product person in a development team, right? Like, what job do they solve? And some of those jobs are alleviate uncertainty, save me time, provide me context, carry out operations, ask questions that I'm incapable of asking, right? And looking from that angle, yes, there's an ongoing translation piece, which I love, Manuel, that you did. That you said that you drip. It's called dripping. So you dripped insights as you had those interviews, right? And also, when we think about, and I'm answering 4 questions at once, so just bear with me as I ramble. And also, the research report acts as an artifact that also solves certain jobs, but it's a much more important thing in a more abstract context, like a consultancy, when there's more players involved, because there are so many more people that you're trying to compress data and information into. I think it is less important in smaller teams, but it does still serve a certain task or job. Like, it still does the work. Do you know what I mean? It still does the work, but it's less important, especially if, as Manuel did, you're slowly dripping insights to the team so that they are never surprised They're always bought in, and as E said, they're part of the process of constructing knowledge. If you want to go social constructionist, right? So like you as a collective are pulling people into your inquiry. So all of that's a roundabout way of saying that literally what Mo, Manuel, and E said before me made sense, but I just happened to ramble about it a bit.
That was a good ramble.
On point.
Hey, thanks.
On point, Art. Okay, so why don't we kind of open it up to some questions? You guys can feel free to unmic or like type questions in the chat. One question that came through was, yeah, maybe Manuel, like how did you end up deciding to do the jobs to be done framework as opposed to a different framework?
Okay. Basically, I explained more what I needed to do, and she pointed me to a couple of frameworks. And while we were in call, I don't remember exactly which was the other one, but the jobs to be done seemed like perfect because we actually didn't really know what users used BDK for. So this was a starting point for me, and then there was the possibility to add some questions about pain points and this kind of stuff. And this was basically what I needed to understand which were the priorities, because one of the things was that we have in BDK there are lots of crates, so the usage of like the jobs to be done, so what job each crate is performing is important to understand which is the higher priority crate to maintain. Actually, BDK is used in every part, but this is like something that I learned later. But still, it was very useful for me to focus on what they are using BDK for and what is the pain point that they get from using BDK and from onboarding on BDK. So yeah, it actually struck me immediately, and I basically decided for it at the same time that she presented me this kind of framework. So it looked very like adapt to what I was looking for. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what were the others that she presented me, so I cannot like say which are the cons of the others, because of course there will have some advantages for sure. But yeah, that was the one that struck me.
I'll just touch on that very briefly. I'm going to share this tab here. I don't know if this is visible. But I'm trying to think which, so, Manuel and we were speaking, and I remember we got on a call and you told me you were having conversations. I think you said you were having conversations with users of BDK to understand how they were using it. I think you said you needed to understand how they were using it. And then I just somehow in my mind, I just automatically, I showed you, I'm not sure which were the different methodologies, but it was more in terms of ruling out methodologies. It wasn't going to be competitive analysis. They're not designing anything and sprinting. They're not usability testing BDK because it doesn't have a front end. They're not prototyping anything. They're not saving a database. They're not doing any scrappy research for quick iteration. They're not sharing research, and they're also not doing user journey mapping. So it was by default jobs to be done because just none of the other ones fitted into the goals of what they were trying to achieve. So I think that's how we both just instantly felt it, and that's how it happened. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, thanks for walking us through that. We do have another question in the chat. Yeah, Manuel, what was one of the greatest challenges that you faced collating and presenting your research?
Okay, so my greatest challenge before having the report was presenting in a visual way, because I'm bad at doing slides and this kind of design things. So as you saw, I basically kept the majority of the design of the slides. I just put my data inside, or just selected which were the slides that
Recording has stopped.
Oh, keep going, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I basically selected the slides that I needed to use. So and
recording
use, of course,
is on.
of course, adjusted them to my situation. In presenting in general, the main difficulty probably was still letting people understand the importance of it. Even if I try to make them aware step by step, there was not huge participation in it, like at the beginning, especially at the beginning. So probably this was the main thing, making them understand the importance of the work and what I was doing. So I think these were the two things. One was solved by the template, and the other probably sharing things step by step, or dripping, as they were saying.
Nice. Yeah, if people have any other questions, feel free to leave a chat. One question I had for you was, so it sounds like you have experience working in a commercial background, like in a business background, and you're also contributing to this FOSS project. What were some of the unique challenges with working with the FOSS project as opposed to, let's say, a business?
Yeah, very different style of working. The most difficult part is not having a role. Like you need to invent yourself. I think you know better than me. You need to fit in the need of the project. You don't have a specific role, someone that teaches you, oh, you need to do this from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. or this kind of stuff. You have to understand what is the need and try to figure it out. But this was really, really useful, actually, because I took it from the open source project, and I brought it to my actual job, because I thought that this was a good thing to bring to my job, because I need to bring the most value possible to the team. So I need to think more of what is the priority for me. So then another difficult thing, but maybe this is due to the PDK type of product, it was understanding it. I didn't fully understand it even now, because some things are very technical and are like very time consuming understanding them. So I probably just said, okay, I understood until this level. This is enough for me to talk with users. You keep care of the functions and code and this kind of stuff. I'm good with this kind of knowledge. But yeah, and also maybe you don't have, of course, someone that will instruct you on what is the product. You need to ask. This is something that you find very available people to answer and to give you feedback and this kind of stuff. But I was not the kind of person that was asking a lot in general, because I don't want to bother people. But actually, I didn't bother at all. But this is my personal issue. It's not something that maybe someone doesn't feel like it. And these were the main difficulties in working, like contributing in a open source project, in my view.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so I mean, one thing that I really like about what you said, Manny, is that you don't have to be technical, and that's exactly what a Bitcoin product contributor is. Like, you don't necessarily need to know all the details or all the in-depth coding of how everything works. And there's value to that, because your strength is like user research and project management, which isn't necessarily coding specific. And so there's got to be a combination of multiple different types of people in order to make these FOSS projects succeed. So that's really cool. Mo, there was actually a question for you. I didn't get a chance to read it. Do you mind reading it out loud and answering it?
So this one's from Gary. Mogashni, how would you describe the current sentiment towards the value of product UX and research in the Bitcoin community now? Is there a positive shift amongst business owners and developers? I will answer that question in full honesty and transparency. I will hold nothing back.
Wow.
I started off in the ecosystem 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I don't remember. And there was very little to no research being done in Bitcoin applications being built. And my background is marketing research. So I had a marketing research consultancy, and then I switched over to UX research and UX design. And when I entered in, I was like, there's something very wrong here. And so I became an evangelist for UX research, or rather the voice of the user for the whole ecosystem. The current sentiment is we don't have time to do research because we already understand our users. Now, I'm going to make a joke. Imagine that you are a Bitcoin developer and you are developing your Bitcoin application with two other developers and one front end. So you say you understand your users. And very often the question I say is, who is your user? And the answer I get is, we are the users. So my next question would be, if you are the user of your Bitcoin application, then this is a Bitcoin developer, how many Bitcoin developers are there now in the entire world? I don't know. We can guess, maybe 300, maybe 500. So which caps the use of your application to 300 to 500 people globally if you're building the application for yourself. So this is my point, is we have to stop saying, I understand my user because I am the user. We need to start saying, I need to understand who I'm building for, because unless I do any research and sit across the table for the people I'm building for, I'm only hypothesizing. So I'd love for any of you, on this call to be champions for research and shill the UX research toolkit. And any project call you jump on, ask them the same question: who are you building for, and how do you know this information? And question them and nudge them to think about the users, the real people. Full honest transparency.
Yeah, that's spitting fire over there, Mo. It actually makes me ask the question, for Bitcoin Core, who is that product for, because enterprises, they end up actually customizing it a lot to leverage it, or they use like something like BDK, right? And so when these core contributors are developing for themselves, I do wonder who they're building it for. We have a question from Paper Psych, and maybe we'll have time for one or two more questions after this. Were there any trade-offs? I guess this is for Manny. Were there any trade-offs you had to make between simplicity or functionality for certain features because BDK's audience is highly technical?
I don't know if you mean in terms of like development. I think there was no trade-off in this kind of sense. In my experience, actually, I had to make some trade-off in talking to users because sometimes they were talking too technical on maybe on their own products, and I was not like fully understanding what they were saying. So I was trying to say, okay, what do you mean? What you mean is, and trying to repeat what they were saying in my own words, trying to assess my understanding of their assessment, let's say. And this was very helpful because they actually understood that I was not the most technical person in the room, so they tried to simplify this. But in terms of decision made for the BDK product, I don't think there were this kind of trade-off because BDK is highly technical and the users require a highly technical product. So I don't know, maybe I didn't understand correctly the question, but this is what came to my mind reading it.
Okay, well, maybe we can wrap off with this note. Like, Gary mentioned that he's a PM looking to get involved with Bitcoin projects, and I think that's awesome. And maybe Gary, you can reach out to me on Discord. eCurrency Hodler. We have a database of FOSS projects that could use some help, and so if you're interested, we can maybe point you in the right direction. But I think, for people who are curious, the things that stick out to me about Manny's story is, get involved, right? It's going to be difficult trying to create space for yourself, but you got to have just the initiative and drive to kind of see how you can be useful. Um, but also, find a project where your values align with the project. I actually think that's like the number one most important thing. So like, take your time, look across the ecosystem, find projects that you're like, oh man, this is super exciting, super cool to be a part of. And then from there, like, slowly kind of try to integrate yourself into the team. Um, yeah. And so, yeah, if Gary, if you want to reach out to me, we can talk more about that. I think we also have a post about how Bitcoin product people who want to help FOSS projects can get more involved. And even for us, the Bitcoin product community, we could use some help as well, with like some marketing stuff, and also like reaching out to FOSS projects, getting that database list up to date, and connecting people to those projects as well. So if you're interested in that, feel free to reach out. Okay, go ahead, Mo.
I also want to shill a sister community, which is the Bitcoin design community.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we are the sister community, but we are on the design side of things. So anything UX related, user experience, come join our Discord community as well. If you don't know about it, you will be warmly welcomed. And there's also projects that you can contribute to as well. And we have an opportunities channel.
Cool.
May I add something?
Go ahead, Manny.
Yeah, I wanted to thanks everyone for this conversation and questions and this kind of stuff. But also, about what you were saying, I think like I undervalued the real opportunity that contributing in an open source project gives you. It actually makes you like know and meet very knowledgeable and very like brain skilled people that talk to you as you were their peer, even if I'm not. So that's very interesting on a human and a professional standpoint, but also like Bitcoin products and firms. If you aspire to work for them, like the first thing they see is like you contributing in an open source project. They talk to the people that are part of that project, and everyone knows each other, and that's very useful. That's also how I got to my new work in the Bitcoin industry. So if this is your aspiration, that's a very good path in my opinion. And if you become like very useful, like if you bring value to the project, it's also likely that they will give you grants or maybe support you in some way to contribute to open source. So I think it's a very good path, and both in the professional and in the understanding and learning path.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's a great way to end this call. Thank you everyone for hopping on. We're going to have a learning club in a couple of weeks, so please look for that in the Discord, and you can follow us on Twitter. Let me actually, yeah, I'll drop that in the chat after I stop recording. So thanks everyone. We'll see you guys later.
Thanks.